What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we did talk about that Nintendo Direct date that appears to have gotten out online a bit early, and now we're starting to see some games pop up online. One just completely leak out on the PlayStation Store, and these are probably titles we can expect to see in that Direct, and we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Starfield. We had our first full look at it during that Xbox Games Showcase, but now Todd Howard has provided some additional details to go along with that, and we're also going to be talking about God of War Ragnarok. People are just kind of hanging out waiting for Sony to say anything about this title, and with some new teases going on, it looks like we could be seeing that happen here pretty soon. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Nintendo Switch firmware update 14.1.2. It's available now, and we can see this over on Nintendo Life. Nintendo's description: general system stability improvements to enhance the user's experience. Not much to go on there, but Oatmeal Dome did take a look under the hood here. Version 14.1.2 has been released. The following internal OS components have been updated: the bus, Bluetooth, package 2. Mostly assuming these are just bug fixes, and then looks like they have a new misspelled word to add to the bad words list. However, going a bit more in depth here, Oatmeal Dome says the bus handles communication between physical components on the motherboard. The Bluetooth, that's obvious. And then package 2 contains key system components like the kernel. And really looking up and down the list here, just seems to be updates that Nintendo would normally do to have security patches fixed or just general system improvements overall, as they say, for stability. So to me, not a lot going on here, but you want to make sure you are updated. It's out now. Also, I did want to talk a little bit about a game that was shown more in depth during this Xbox Extended Showcase, where they sat down, talked with some of the developers and creators for these different games. And the game I want to go over real quick is High on Life. And this is one that, as I hear and see more and more about it, has been kind of climbing my list for anticipated titles to close out 2022. There is more gameplay footage to check out, and you can actually see that during the extended showcase that's posted up on Xbox's YouTube channel. But this is a game that we saw during that showcase. It was revealed from the creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, and the studio that they have there. And this, it's a first-person shooter, as you can see immediately, but it has a lot of personality behind it. And that was something they really stressed during their interview, is that they were trying to bring more of like the adult comedy to the video game space. So it'll have you kind of chuckling as you're playing through the game. And they described it as an action, adventure, first-person shooter, Metroidvania style game, in the sense that you will pick different bosses to go up against. You'll teleport to their area or their world. You'll play through it. You'll get one of these different guns or weapons, whether it's a talking pistol or a talking knife. And then you'll gain new abilities from that, going back to other worlds to unlock different paths. So it seems like at least the gameplay loop will be, what we've known in Metroidvanias, but I mean, those are very fun gameplay loops, and the visual style is very, I'd say, grabbing. It pops off the screen, a lot of color, very unique looking. So yeah, I'm really excited to check out High on Life. It's certainly one to keep on your radar. That's coming out in October, going straight into Game Pass. Oh, and we did have a nice surprise with a new game trial for the Nintendo Switch Online service, and we can see it here. Say, get cozy with the latest game trial, Stardew Valley. Now, it is already available to run till June 20th at midnight. You can just download the full Stardew Valley game, and if you do enjoy it and you want to keep it longer, they have a discount of 20% currently. And Stardew Valley, as I'm sure people know who have played it, can, rack up the hours, like hundreds of hours, no problem. But I understand some people may have looked at it and said, I don't know if I would get into this Harvest Moon style game. Well, now's your chance to download it and see if it is something you would enjoy. Spend an hour or two through the game trial. If you don't like it, then you just kind of move on. Don't really lose anything from it, but you'd be surprised. I know some people who aren't really into Harvest Moon at all, but they played Stardew Valley and then they spend like hundreds of hours in it. So I think it's at least worth a download just to see if you'd like it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a couple of games that we can most likely look forward to seeing during the Nintendo Direct, as one just outright showed up on the PlayStation Store pretty early, and that's Tactics Ogre Reborn. Now remember, this was in the NVIDIA leak list. Then we had the trademark. Now we have the listing, and it actually showed up with some key art and the icon itself, which you can see here. Now, I originally saw this posted up by Escapist Magazine, showing both the artwork and the logo. Tactics Ogre Reborn looks good, I would say. That classical Square Enix artwork there. Now, if you're unaware, Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together is most likely what this is going to be a remaster of. That was back on like the Super Famicom. I know our most recent release for it was on the PSP. I think this was 2011, where they mostly just remastered it and brought it up to the PSP. But I'm thinking it's going to be a similar, I guess, release as we had with Chrono Cross. And I hope it's not similar in the sense that it doesn't run very well. I'm thinking more along the lines of they take the original game, they smooth it out, maybe add some extra visual flares to it, whether the character models are slightly redone or some of the music, and then they release it. And I think this is a good idea for Square Enix. As they've mentioned before, they are going to continue looking more and more into their back catalog of titles and work to bring some of them up to what's a newer generation now than what was with the Super Nintendo, the Super Famicom, the PS1, even the PSP. I mean, 2011 was 11 years ago, and yeah, there's a new generation of gamers who have cycled in here who probably have never heard of Tactics Ogre, and it's a very good tactical RPG. Awesome story throughout it, so if that is the case, and I believe we're going to see that probably during that Nintendo Direct, it makes sense. Square has been announcing some of these older remasters, even like Chrono Cross, that was on other platforms at a Nintendo Direct. Seems to make the most sense. So keep an eye out for Tactics Ogre Reborn. If it is Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, but kind of given that Chrono Cross graphical treatment, I think it's going to be one to watch. Oh, but real quick, Square, I'm going to need that physical copy. I mean, technically we got it for Chrono Cross because there was one that was released overseas, get it imported and all this, but like, come on, let's get some of these classical games that you're bringing up to the Switch. Let's get them on a cartridge so that we can add it to our collection. Now, the other game appears to be a big announcement for Nintendo during this Direct, and it's a game that I've seen rumored for quite a while. It continues to pop up, but looks like Emily Rogers went a bit more in depth with it, and we can see this over on Famaboards, saying that the announcement is a new Fire Emblem game. It's not a remake, nothing like that. Brand new story, collaboration between Intelligent Systems, Koei Tecmo, and Gust, who's a division of Koei Tecmo Holdings. And Gust heavily assisted with the visuals, the graphics, and those graphics are an improvement over Three Houses. You won't have the flat tutti fruit in the marketplace there at the shop owners and all of this. The funny thing though is Emily does mention the game has been finished for over a year. I don't doubt that at all, because Nintendo does this thing where if a game's done, they don't necessarily just rush to release it. Sometimes they'll just hold it in their back pocket, maybe to coincide with an anniversary, or if they are having maybe a dry spot in the year, they can sort of just slip that game in. But she does say that the new Emblem's gimmick allows players to summon Fire Emblem characters from the past for your squad. So, I mean, hey, for Fire Emblem fans, that is awesome. That sounds like a really big time announcement that you can probably look forward to at the Direct at the end of this month. I saw like Sean and a few others mention that do we need more Fire Emblem games? Because, I mean, technically Fire Emblem Warriors, there's another one of those that's coming out here in a week or two, and then they're going to announce another Fire Emblem game that might be coming up at the end of this year. I mean, that is some Fire Emblem overload for people who aren't fans of the series or that genre, but I mean, we see the sales continue in an upward trajectory, and Intelligent Systems mostly does Fire Emblem. What else they do? WarioWare, they Paper Mario. Like, they're not out here breaking new ground with brand new intellectual properties or much else out of those three intellectual properties from Nintendo. I will say, I wouldn't mind seeing Nintendo try that with Intelligent Systems. Just say, hey, what would you guys like to do with a new intellectual property that we can help you kind of craft and form? Just something different there. But hey, if people keep buying Fire Emblem, they're going to keep making Fire Emblem. Next up, let's talk about the NPD sales results for the month of May. These cover all the video game sales in the US, and we can see this over from Matt Piscatella, saying Nintendo Switch led all hardware platforms in both units and dollars in May 2022. Switch was also the market-leading platform in hardware units sold year to date, while Xbox Series generated the highest dollar sales in the period. We can take a look at the top 20 for May, and take a look what's number one. Elden Ring is back. This game just keeps selling for Bandai Namco and FromSoft. I mean, that's big stuff there. Then we have Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. That fell to number 2 from 1, but still pretty good for Lego Star Wars all the way around. Then we have Nintendo Switch Sports. That does not count digital copies sold, again, just physical. Then we have Evil Dead the Game, MLB The Show 22, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Call of Duty Vanguard, Mario Kart 8, Gran Turismo 7, and then Pokemon Legends Arceus to round out the top 10. And if you look up and down the list, there really wasn't anything new that came out. Evil Dead would have been the only new retail release, and that was pointed out by Matt Piscatella that May was kind of a down month for video games overall, and that obviously is because nothing really came out there. Elden Ring, though, still topping the charts. That's pretty impressive stuff for FromSoft and Bandai Namco. And obviously the Switch continuing to top the sales charts when it comes to hardware, but even like Switch Sports, not having digital sales included, remember, that's not a full $60 game, so based on the NPD tracking by revenue, that means actually quite a few copies of Switch Sports has sold. So it's not too surprising to see the Switch continue along as like the best-selling system in the NPD. Even years and years after it's released, we've kind of just expect that at this point. Next up, let's talk about Starfield and some new details that have come out now from Todd Howard in an interview with IGN. And well, let's start with the obvious thing. What's Bethesda going to release 10 years from now? We can see this posted up. This from Todd Howard saying, yes, Elder Scrolls 6 is in pre-production, he said. And you know, we're going to be doing Fallout 5 after that, so our slate's pretty full going forward for a while. We have some other projects that we look at from time to time as well, so good to know that Fallout 5 is probably slated for whatever Microsoft calls their next Xbox, but it's kind of the order we would figure anyway. Elder Scrolls 6, as that's been revealed, and then Fallout, right? So you kind of bounce from Elder Scrolls to Fallout to maybe another Starfield or something there. We also found out that Starfield, the main campaign or the story, like you can run through a main quest line, about 30 to 40 hours long. That places it, as Todd Howard says, about 20% bigger than previous Bethesda games. So I did see some concern online that this game seems too large to even work to complete. 30 to 40 hours for a game this big if you just want to run the main quest line. That seems about right there. He also mentions that it will have that big moment where you step out, whether it's from like a cave into the world, or you step out from the vault and you take a look at this big open world that you can do whatever you want. It does appear that Starfield will obviously have that same moment. He just reinforces it here. We also found out that Starfield has 4 main cities and that New Atlantis is the biggest city that Bethesda's ever made. And there was one disappointing detail that was revealed here, and that has to do with going from space to planet or planet to space. I was hoping it would be a very seamless experience. So like you see a planet you want to land on and you just fly through the atmosphere and land, kind of like No Man's Sky sort of, right? Well, Todd Howard said that's not the case, and it appears you're going to be just picking spots on a map, and then it probably does a cutscene of some kind where you're flying in with your ship, and then you take over, leaving your ship to explore the surface. So they kind of wanted to break it up, so there's like one area where you're in space, then the other area is just on like the surface level for the planet, and I wonder if that'll break up the overall flow of the game, although they could also maybe disguise it a bit, where kind of a loading screen, kind of not, where you're still first person in your ship and it just sort of takes you down on its own. You don't actually control it. And I know that unfortunately was a little disappointing to me, but based on what we saw during that footage where they were going around a map and picking out different spots to land, I guess it does kind of line up. Otherwise, though, I came out of this interview and the gameplay showcase they did as just, hey, this is Skyrim or Fallout in space. That's kind of what I was going in expecting, and that's kind of what we got. So for me, I'm all right with what they've shown so far. It still looks like a Bethesda game when they show some of the visuals of the character models and stuff when they're talking to you. Your character will be a silent protagonist or antagonist, I guess, depending on how you want to play the game. So that kind of lines up with what I expect as well. It just seems like they want to take on space and keep, for the most part, the formula that's been working for them, and we'll see how that goes as we get closer towards 2023. I'm wondering how far into 2023 we're going to be going before this releases. If they showed everything that's out in the next 12 months, we would expect it to come out before E3 2023, so maybe like April or May, but I guess we'll see as we go along. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about God of War Ragnarok, as there's still quite a bit of discussion around this game and if it's coming out in 2022. We've had Jason Schreier say, now it looks like it's still slated, and in fact, he mentioned November seems to be the target month. We've seen the database for PlayStation Network have the date move from like September to December, meaning, okay, a fourth quarter. And then we've also had websites say, no, it's being pushed to 2023. Well, it looks like someone woke up on Twitter, we could see this, Cory Barlog quote tweeting David Jaffe, who mentioned that he got an insider who says God of War 2022 may not be a lock, and Cory shows up saying, wait, what? With the Kratos gif there, and then following up with another one, kind of saying, hey, yeah, I know something, and you'll probably be finding out pretty soon. People also noticed that God of War Ragnarok official merchandise is back up for sale, and they have the tentative October 2022 release for it, but we had seen that previously, so it seems like maybe it was pulled down and then went back up. Basically, to me anyway, this is just signifying we're getting close to that state of play announcement for God of War, where they will show the release date. I was thinking it'd be the end of June, but I guess it could go into July if they are releasing it in November. It's still like a 4-month window there for them to do marketing and get all the logistics set up, but it's definitely going to be a later than usual release for Sony with their big first-party PlayStation title, but I think this is one that's cutting it close for Sony. So here's hoping it does stay in 2022, because I'd really like to play this game. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what do you think about Starfield for seeing it for the first time? 23% said I like what I saw, I'm on it day one. 46% said I still need to see more, and then 31% said, yeah, I'm not interested. And I get that, because this is a game that's not gonna be like a heavy narrative-driven experience. This is one where it's like, all right, go ahead and do your thing. You make your own storyline, basically, right? Or choose your own path. But I think this is also a game where we just need to see a lot more about it. So I get that aspect as well. It just seems so large, it was going to be difficult to give you an overall view of it in like 10 or 15 minutes. So I expect now that the gameplay seal has been broken and they've shown it, we'll see more and more of these developer diaries as we go along, and they explore specific aspects of the game, whether it's base building, character creation, or just maybe accomplishing a quest and going out and doing it. But I'm certainly interested to keep an eye on Starfield and see how we progress towards its release. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Shockwave saying, the first video I saw of Sonic Frontiers, all they did was the homing attack on the orb monster thing. It was like they were intentionally playing the game boring. When I watched the full gameplay where it showed him throwing hands and projectiles and using the circle thing to launch enemies, was way cooler. You know, I gotta agree, it does seem like Sega may actually have a fun game here that's been shown in the worst possible light to start off, and first impressions are extremely important. As more and more gameplay has come out though, we've seen parts of the HUD that could be fun, like a speedometer. There was even some new footage that came out that showed some of the skills on the bottom left corner, and it looks like they go up to level 50, so you'll be leveling up, filling out a skill tree for these different skills to get stronger and stronger, maybe take on different forms. We saw story elements get out there from like the potato camera that people are filming on the floor. It's Sega, what you need to do, after this IGN First has concluded, you just gotta sit down in a live stream, in a pre-recorded segment, and just play the game in its entirety for a level, or just show off some of the more interesting aspects, not all the boring stuff. I mean, this is a 3D Sonic game coming out this year. I think most of us would like to get excited about it, so come on, Sega. Get on it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was a new Fire Emblem game or a new Tactics Ogre release. Let me know if you're excited about either of those. And then also, what about God of War Ragnarok? Do you think that game is going to make it in 2022? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.